Namaskar, viewers. Today in Diva's episode, I have wonderful and very charming devotee of Hindu Sanatana Dharma, and she is originally from Western countries. She is from Europe, London, and she was pursuing her career in investment banking after graduating from Oxford University, London, and that did not give her the satisfaction, so she chose to get into spiritual path, and her refuge was Bharatiya Sanskriti and Bharatiya Sanatana Dharma. So what motivated her to get inclined towards this path, and how is her journey has been as of now, and what is that she was looking for, and did she really achieve it? So all this we'll talk to her today. So let me first of all welcome Suswagatam Didi
प्रणाम।
now. So हर आपका प्री मोनास्टिक नेम क्या है?
मेरे पूरा पुराना नाम था लूसी।
Lus-
लूसी गेस्ट कहते थे।
Lysigis कहते थे. All right. And now you have become a Divya Prabha Mataji.
जी।
Wonderful. Great. So a little bit about your previous life, Didi. Uh, you took the education from Oxford University, which people aspire for, and then you were pursuing your career in good top MNC or international investment banks. So, what made you to come out of it and adopt this life?
It's a little bit of a long story because really it starts before birth, but in childhood I was aware of certain things, that I saw the world a little differently than my friends did, but I didn't realize they didn't see what I saw with my eyes. And when I was 8, I had a beautiful darshan over one of my friend's mother's shoulders in the dark,
Hmm,
but it was light.
hmm,
And it gave me instructions for my life, which I couldn't really understand. But the extraordinary thing is that this little girl in England, whose parents had gone abroad, believed everything that she was told in this darshan and followed all the instructions. And one of the instructions was to like do everything that I wanted in the worldly life before the age of 30. And then when I would be 30, the world would end. So since I was born in 1970, I thought, oh, maybe this millennium thing is a true thing and something's going to happen. So I was always saving and planning. Planning means that by the time I was getting a little bit older, I was understanding that I would like be making a center or something, but I didn't know what kind of center. Along the way, I also had a big issue at a boarding school,
hmm,
uh, where um, where I was at a Christian boarding school,
hmm, hmm, hmm,
and they wanted to do a sanskar. Call it a sanskar because I don't know what else to call it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we used to have lessons for this, doing confirmation.
Hmm,
And one day the nun was telling us, about sin, and she told us about the sin of not going to church on Sunday.
hmm,
So I put my hand up because I was a very inquisitive child. And I said, what about if you go to church on Tuesday
hmm,
instead of Sunday because you
hmm,
couldn't go for some really important reason? And she said, it's still a sin. So I kind of leapt out of my chair and I said, these are man-made rules. There's no way that God made these rules. I've got inside me. I don't need you or this. And that was the end of that story, as you can imagine. And then as I, was getting older, I had the sense of this infinite consciousness that I didn't call it God because I was very angry with what I had grown up with,
yes.
as you can imagine, because I only had those limited terms. And when there came a point in my career, I had some very successful years. There came a point in my career that it was like I had everything in my hands, but I felt empty inside. And I started to question
Hmm,
the meaning of that and what the point of money was when it couldn't buy you happiness
hmm,
and you felt empty.
mm,
And I left my career. There was a big turning point in my career, and I decided that was it. And I started to search for the answer of who am I. I had this big question: who am I? Why am I? What am I supposed to do? And I couldn't get it in from my surroundings. And I went to a lot of people and Jyotish and everybody, and to get an answer. And there came a point where I had been crying a lot, and a friend of mine said, come to our meditation group." And their meditation group, I didn't know who they were, what they were, but I went there, and effectively, my life changed in a moment. And when I was in meditation, something happened, and what I was seeing and what I was experiencing, I knew that that is what I've been looking for my whole life.
mhm, mhm.
And from that day, there wasn't a question about what to do, who to be with, or where to go. And I realized after some time that there was Sanatan Dharma, and he was a Swamiji, and his Guruji was Brahmrishi Bishwat Mabhavraji, whose photo you can see just behind me.
Yes, yes.
And that led me on the journey that eventually uh, landed me with them and in India. And the remarkable thing is, a week before coming, as Guruji had said to me, because I'd realized in an experience that Guruji was my guru. He said, "How long are you going to come to India for?" And I'd never had a conversation with him ever. And I said, "Well, I'll get a year's ticket and a year's visa, year's
Oh,
tourist visa, then we'll see." And the first night in India, he said, "How long are you going to stay?" And this was the second time I'd ever spoken to him in my life. And I watched myself like from outside saying 10 years and then we'll see. That was 23 years ago.
no, but then before that, when you took the decision of going on the path of Guruji, didn't the parents object for it, or they allowed you just like that?
Actually, my parents originally were very scared,
Mm,
because, I remember at boarding school when I was 17 or 18,
mm,
a group of people had
mm,
even come to school and warn us about Hare Krishnas,
mm.
and that the danger of being kidnapped by Hare Krishnas
Okay.
and being separated from our families and things like this.
Mm,
So my parents had like very little knowledge and um, of what a Hindu or Sanatani means. And for many years, they were very, very scared. Um, it took, I think, maybe like 4 or 5 years for my mother. you'll, you'll like the story. Actually, what happened was that in the UK, they have a group of people who uh, extract people who've been kidnapped into cults.
yes.
And this man was a former SAS, which is like the top European army people,
Mm,
who was involved with tracking spies. And my mother hired him to come and extract me in India. So they came to India, and like within 24 hours, he told my mother, "Your daughter's perfectly safe here. They're the best people I've ever seen. You've got nothing to worry about." And from then on, my family came to terms with it. I mean, my father for sure, he missed having me there, because he wanted to like um, pass on the business to me. I was kind of like the responsible one,
mm.
so he missed that, but at the same time, as time went by and my academic progress and what
Yes.
we've been doing here in India, my parents became not just accepting but supporting.
That's a that's a very fortunate episode you just now narrated. Now, you initially mentioned one word, and in that search, you have come to India. Happiness. Uh, Now, very prominently, I want to understand what is the definition of happiness in Western culture, and what is the difference you see in Indian culture.
Well, the first thing is that the worldly and Western concept of happiness is concerned with the external senses, with the external experience, which, of course, by its very nature is temporary.
Mhm.
Whereas in Indian
Context.
culture,
Yeah.
in Bharatiya Sanskriti,
Yeah.
the search for happiness is in the permanent, the unchangeable,
Mm.
the infinite. And so that, of course, is found inside first and then manifested externally. So that's a huge, huge difference. The difference between permanent and temporary makes a whole difference of experience in life.
But it's very hard for people to relate to it. And it's not only Western, but even some Indian cannot relate to it. What is mean by internal happiness or peace, for that matter. Mm, I'm curious to know. Um, you are coming from a very British hardcore background and also working with this great banking environment. Coming from such a background and learning Sanskrit must have been really challenging. Uh, but you had done PhD in that language, so which is creditable. How was the journey of that?
Well, really a very blessed journey, perhaps but because of its very nature, I think. My first experience of Sanskrit was Om in meditation in the UK.
Mm,
And so I experienced that uplifting sense of Om, from lower to higher, and that sense of it just going out into the space and just expanding. And my second experience was potentially Yog Darshan,
mm,
and of course, the philosophy of the Yoga Sutras is so purely scientific. Educationally, I had a scientific background,
mm,
and the sutras make such perfect sense, whether on a mental level or an intellectual, and then on a spiritual level. So
yes,
whatever level that you're on, there's nothing that doesn't make you go, oh wow, really? That makes it so clear. It's really a crystal clear shastra.
yes.
And then the third thing is that when I came to India, Guruji used to teach us the Bhagavad Gita every
Mm,
day.
mm,
And everyone in my group was non-white. Either they came from Guyana, Suriname, Holland, or were
I
born
see.
in India themselves.
I see.
And so I really wanted to be able to uh, read the Gita myself. So I used to do Gita part every morning,
Mm,
and just looking at the Devanagari and looking at the Roman transliteration
mm,
and
mm.
listening to the shloka and trying to
Like the
copy
meaning
it.
out of it. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm,
before I even thought about the meanings. And I used to get such incredible peace and a sense of like
mm,
expanding consciousness and knowledge.
true.
Even without knowing the meaning of the words,
Mm,
it inspired me into study of Sanskrit, which then took me to Kashi to
yes.
study the traditional way.
Yes. Didi, this is really fascinating that someone adopting Hinduism so flawlessly and so passionately. Um, Kashi has its own charm, and many people say that it's a place of Lord Shiva. Many people say it's a place of Ma Ganga. Few people say it's a very dirty and unhygienic place. And, everyone has their own version. So let's not get into that. But I want to ask you personally, did you land in Kashi directly or have you seen other pilgrimage places of India before?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm very, very blessed to have traveled a lot to sacred places across India. My first well, I mean, Guruji's ashram, one in
Yes.
Haridwar,
Yes.
one also had a Siddh Peeth of Hanumanji in a Siddh Hanumanji in the foothills of the Himalayas.
Mm.
And the first like big yatra I was taken on was to Badrinath.
Okay.
So I've been very lucky to have traveled from Badrinath to Kanyakumari across all the devis in the northern region, and now covered all the 12 Jyotirlingam. And basically, wherever we traveled to, we would always go to a sacred place. Kumbh Mela was
Mm. Oh, okay.
2001. I think it was 2000, or maybe it was 2000. I can't remember exactly. But I got the experience of Kumbh Mela as well, at Prayag.
Right,
So
right.
I've
Okay.
been very blessed to experience many holy and divine pilgrim places. Tirth Yatra both hua.
Yes, yes. Which is your favorite place in Bharat, if I ask you, other than Kashi?
Oh, it's probably Badrinath,
Badrinath.
I see
Okay.
Mana where the Saraswati
Yes.
comes out. That's like
Sangam. Yes.
really, really special. But
Yes.
everywhere I go to, I once said to Swamiji, whether I go to Ayodhya or Brindavan or Somnath or Dwarka,
Mm,
I said, I feel the same thing. And he
mm.
said, aha, yes, that's the right answer. I and wherever I go, I never want to leave. That's also a big reality.
Yes, that is because you enjoy the holy company, satsanga,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's really enriching, no doubt about it. So, Didi, you completed your PhD in Sanskrit grammar, and I also
yeah.
heard that you're planning one more. What is it about?
The final talk it's not decided, but it's going to be. My guide is from the Mansa,
Huh,
and I'm looking at maybe doing Ganapat, which is also part of grammar. There's a Bengali that did 20. There's a manuscript that's never been deciphered yet, with about 26 shlokas on Ganapat, and so I'm possibly going to be doing that or something on Mahabhasha, looking at the um, Nyaya,
huh,
Nyaya and Mimansa,
huh.
ancient um, discussions within Mahabhasha. One of those two.
One of
Or,
those.
or the third is the Atmaswarup in the
Atmosphere. Okay,
Mahabhasha.
great, great.
There are quite a few PhDs I still want to do.
Yes, great, Deborah. Um, from Bhagavad Gita, now that there are 18 adhyayas and each adhyaya has its own significance. Personally, I'm also very fond of Bhagavad Gita. And if you ask me, that's the only scripture I read more often than anything else. Um, any particular shloka that has made a very deep mark on your entire journey and you would like to pursue that?
There are four shlokas that come
Okay.
together in the second chapter. Would you like me to sing them?
Please do.
Chant them. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushtastit pragyastatochite Mukeshu nukvamanaha sukeshu vikatspriha vitaragabha krodha stitadir muniruchite Yasavatra na visnehastat prapyashubhashubham na vinandati na dvishti tasya pragya pratishtita yada samharate chayam kumanganeva savasha indriyani indriyatebhyas tasya pragya pratishtita.
Krishna Arpanamastu.
So these are my favorite in the Gita, and these are what Guruji encourages us and to understand as the most important part of the Gita, which basically is describing who is a yogi. And so it inspires us to like keep us, on track, aware of the senses, aware of being inside, aware of being control of our emotions and
Yes.
experiences.
So we say that Sri Rama showed us what is life, and Sri Krishna showed us how to live that life.
Yes.
So that's our belief. Didi, you know what? For Indian, especially the Hindu sect, uh, we this whole information, whatever you have just now narrating or you are liking for, it comes by natural because these things are happening around us for generations, and we are born in this atmosphere. So I think I may not know the every nook and crook of Kashi, but I know the importance of Kashi. I may not know Mathura or Rudraprayag so well, but I know the significance of that place. For you, it is all acquired knowledge because you are not born here. Uh, do you still find that much of closeness with all this, like anybody else can find being Bharatiya?
For me, I'd like to give you a couple of definitions of
Please
things,
do.
which then will help you understand why I feel it is part and parcel of my being.
Sure, sure.
Um, One is, Hindu, of course, is not like an ancient word, but even so, if we look at the vigor of its
Mm,
meaning, hinsaya haduryate yasya hridayam, it is a Hindu, that person who stays far from violence, even by heart and mind, they are Hindu. I may not have been born to people who knew the traditions of the Hindu culture. My
yes.
parents certainly inculcated the values of Hindu Dharma um, in so many ways. And
Mm,
so I feel that from my guru in my previous birth, I was born with these.
mm,
And the other is Vayam Rajiti Bharatam, Prakashena Yukta Iti Bharatam. That which is joined by light is Bharat. That light meaning the knowledge. And so for me, I feel a complete unity with this knowledge, with this culture, with the people who follow that wherever they may be. I really had that sense of Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that really
mm,
we're just one family. I feel unity, not separation.
great. We also have another good quality being an Indian. Swami Vivekananda has said that the morality and the sanskara of Bharatiya citizens is at core, irrespective of their social status, irrespective of their financial status, irrespective of their any other any other achievement. The core is their sanskar, which come by birth and which are not taught to us, which are learned by example. Our parents led that life. That's how we are following. Unfortunately, in my own country, there are some people who are not able to relate with it, who are not able to understand the importance of it. To such people, what would be your friendly advice?
Um, my advice is that I came from far away,
Yes,
leaving opportunities to be I could be anywhere in the world. I could be doing anything in the world.
true.
I was trained as an engineer. I'd been a banker. I could be an artist. I could be a linguist. There's so many things that I could be,
Yes,
and there's no limit to where I could be in the
absolutely.
world. But the reality is that I find in this culture a purely scientific
Hmm,
experience.
hmm,
I find something that is an evidentiary based,
hmm,
systematic way of living that is aimed at freeing us from delusion,
hmm,
aimed at giving us the ability to be peaceful and happy in all circumstances. And ultimately,
hmm.
that's what everybody wants. They say dharma kama mokshanam purusha tushtayam. But moksha, the word itself just means freedom from delusion.
Absolutely.
And everything in this culture, if we inculate it, if we feel it, if we experience it,
Hmm,
if we follow it, and if we share it,
hmm.
that is what we experience.
Good thought. Because that's what everyone is aspiring for, the freedom. And
Yeah,
in the name
yeah.
of freedom, it doesn't mean that you do what you want. It means that you align with your thought process, with your culture, with your nation, with your dharma, and work for the betterment of society also.
That's really, what Ayodhya means. In the Vedas, we have Ashta Chakra Naudwara Devanam Puri Yodhya, that we consist of 8 chakras, 9 gates, with the dwelling place of the Devatas. Devatas meaning giving beings, beings that give that don't take, and what sun, wind, these all always giving, never taking anything. And then the name of our body is Ayodhya. So in Sanskrit, Na Yodhya, Ayodhya, that where there is no battle. And so that battle is our inner and our exterior.
Yes.
Inner being the infinite divinity, And so when these were become united and flowing as one, then we experience that peace and happiness which you were just saying. So it reminded me that, that's the Ayodhya for us.
Good. Maybe you also have a school wherein you are teaching the young students about Veda and Upanishad and everything. So please tell a little bit about that initiative.
You know, it all happened without planning. We had a piece of land. We had like built an evening school, some children. When I came to India, one of the first things I realized was that education was very important.
Mm,
Because after asking your name, everyone would ask me, "What's your education?" I was very lucky that I could give them an answer that they thought, "Oh, that's good." So
mm,
then they would carry on talking to me. So but when as I traveled across India, I realized that there was a gap
mm,
at that time. We're talking about 23
mm,
or so years ago. I realized that there was a financial gap
mm.
for some children and a huge population.
Yes,
And um, and I truly believe that everyone should have an equal opportunity in education.
absolutely.
But I also realized that education, in Latin comes from two words, educare and educare. One meaning to
Mm,
put in education as we understand it. Modern education is all about putting in.
mm,
But educare means to bring out.
mm,
And I understood, from my studies and from sadhana,
mm,
that Sanatan Dharma, yoga was the true educating of that bringing out
mm,
and then building on that. And so I having had such like expensive education in the West, I really wanted to. I realized what its shortcomings were, and I realized what Bharat has in the Gurukul system, and I wanted to bring that Gurukul system back to the forefront, combining it with like computer studies and these things. And we teach young children coming from villages. It might be orphaned or lost one of their parents, or be BPL or whatever they might be. But any person, I think, can become a perfect human being by studying the Vedas and Vyakaran with meditation and yoga, because it, really you experience Sat Buddhi at
yes,
least Sat Buddhi. And so
yes.
it makes you very, very sharp and very, very competent. And so that's how we like started out, and that's what we're doing now.
So what's the name of the school?
It's International Chandramauli Charitable Trust because it
Oh,
goes under the name of our Sanstha. In
mm,
time, it's a very pure Vishwa Gurukulam.
great. My last question. If you were asked to not become a monastic path seeker, what you would like to be, if at all there is an option?
I don't think I could think of anything apart from this because I just know that it's perfect. Perfect for me. I mean, I would probably be if I had to. I'd still be a teacher.
Okay.
you know because you see I realized in a point in life that there was only one option for me, and that is this. For me, there's no alternative.
You are destined to be Divya Prabha. And that's how the entire thing worked in such a way that you landed in this place and you got acquainted with wonderful Guru Shishya Parampara. And now you are continuing that legacy by imparting the same education to the next generation. It was absolute pleasure to talk to you, Ma. Thank you so much. And सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ओम शांति 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 प्रणाम
Pranam. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
बहुत
Thank you.
बहुत धन्यवाद आपका